Find me here again, in the place we met, where hopelessness meets grace. Silence all the noise, every whispered lie puts to rest by perfect peace. And even in my doubt, I will not forget you are faithful still to me. I won't take a single step till I hear your voice. I surrender, and when my eyes cannot see, it's your voice that's leading me out of darkness and into light. It's your love that's breaking through the night. I won't move until you speak. I won't move until you speak. Here I'll wait for you in the silence now. I'm holding on to your truth. I won't take a single step until I hear your voice. I surrender, and when my eyes cannot see, it's your voice that's leading me out of darkness and into light. It's your love that's breaking through the night. I won't move until you speak. I won't move until you speak. Oh, I won't move until you speak. I won't move until you speak. You break the walls apart, you heal the wounded heart. I won't move until you speak. You calm the raging sea, you crush the enemy. I won't move until you speak. And you break the walls apart, and you heal the wounded heart. And you've been there from the start. I won't move until you speak. And you calm the raging sea, and you crush the enemy, and you set the broken free. I won't move until you speak. Oh, you break the walls apart, and you heal the wounded heart. And you've been there from the start. You heal the wounded heart. I won't move until you speak. You calm the raging sea, you crush the enemy. I won't move until you speak. And you break the walls apart, and you heal the wounded heart. And you've been there from the start. I won't move until you speak. And you calm the raging sea, and you crush the enemy, and you set the broken free. I won't move until you speak. Oh, you break the walls apart, and you heal the wounded heart. And you I won't move until you speak. I won't move until you speak. One more step, one more exhale, as I follow where you lead. Feel my heart as it's racing down the path you set for me. When the road feels unending, there's a promise you reveal. When these days leave me empty, you sustain me even still. With every breath, you are reviving these burning lungs. You keep me going when I can't run. Guide me my strength till the work is done. Done. I won't let the race overtake me. Won't let anxiety faze me. Whatever comes, count me in. Count me in. Oh, even when my legs are weary, I'm not gonna give up that easy. Whatever comes, count me in. Count me in. Count me in. Count me in. I trip up and you catch me, then you lift me up again. You direct every footstep, you are with me till the end. With every breath, you are reviving these burning lungs. You keep me going when I can't run. Guide me my strength till the work is done. Done. Oh, I won't let the race overtake me. Won't let anxiety faze me. Whatever comes, count me in. Count me in. Oh, even when my legs are weary, I'm not gonna give up that easy. Whatever comes, count me in. 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 Oh, I won't let the race overtake me. Won't let anxiety faze me. Whatever comes, count me in. Count me in. Oh, even when my legs are weary, I'm not gonna give up that easy. Whatever comes, count me in. 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 Count me in.
Welcome to Her Story. We are enjoying the great outdoors. It's a beautiful day in June, and we've got green leaves, and we get to be on this beautiful patio of the Rock Church. Welcome, and thanks for joining us tonight. We have just so much excitement for Rachelle Boschman's story to be shared. Tonight will be part 1. And next month in July will be part 2. And it is incredible. miraculous and so faith building. So please share this with the people in your life. I know that her story is just going to really build your faith at this point in time. Every time I hear her story, I cry, and I'm sure there will be tears shed again when I rewatch it. So we will get there in just a moment, but before we do that, I want to introduce you to someone who has become so very special at the Rock Church. This is Sarah. Sarah Braun is our outreach overseer, outreach staff overseer, and Bibleville and Shift overseer. So she's going to share with us what's been going on in these strange COVID times.
Yeah, so we've definitely had an interesting year just getting used to what the regulations are, and then all of a sudden they change again. And so we've been really flexible in trying new things and different opportunities in different ways. And thankfully, with the nice weather, we've been able to do some more outreaches, which has really brought our morale up, and it's been exciting. We've been able to gather our volunteers again, which has been really amazing. And what we've been doing is sending teams out to our different kids' homes, and we've been sending them out with craft or some bubbles or some sidewalk chalk, and they go meet their kids on their doorstep, and we get to do a Devo with them. We get to build relationship, and we've just been having a really amazing time with that, and it's been so life-giving for us and for our volunteers again to get re-engaged. And one of my favorite stories was the other day, a kid I'd never met. I walked up to her, and we were sitting on the ground, and we were laughing, and she goes, "You're now my best friend." And I was like, "Thank you, we are best friends." And so it's just been really cool. And another cool part of all of this has been that we've been meeting other kids from these blocks. So actually, kids will come and see what we're doing and ask if they can join. And so we blow bubbles with them, and we do sidewalk chalks, and we grab their name, and we'll go meet their parents. And it's another cool way to just reach more kids in our community. So it's been such a blessing to be able to do this, and not just to our kids, but to the kids in the community. And also getting to connect with the families, meeting the parents, having a face to our names, and being able to say, "Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm the one that calls you every week." And so it's just been really cool and been such an opportunity that God has given us to meet kids where they're at, and not just coming to our building and coming and experiencing our program, but actually being with them on their turf, which has been really amazing. And so we're excited to be looking forward to the summer. We just got news that things are opening up. We don't know what that looks like. We're still in this time of figuring all these things out. So we're excited to see what summer can bring, and we're just praying that God will give us direction. So if you guys are praying for us, please be praying for our team as we discern what God's asking us to do this summer, what it looks like, what the possibility of camp could look like. And we're just really open to hearing what the Lord is going to say, and we're doing this as a team. So we're really excited what the Lord is going to do over the summer and see what he's going to bring. But we're just needing his guidance. So if you're praying for us, pray for that.
Yeah, that is exactly what we've been saying to each other. I'm still amazed at how God has answered our prayer to be able to reach new kids and families and parents. It is so strange how God pushes you out of your normal life and your normal ways that you've always done things, even through crazy things like COVID, but allows it to be used for his glory and allows our prayer to be answered, that we could reach people in a different way. So we feel like that has been something unexpected. He does unimaginable things, more than we could ask or imagine. And so that's kind of with those hearts we're praying into camp as well, that God, we don't want to just take for granted that we do what we've always done. We want to hear your heart for the kids, for the youth. We want to know what the next steps are from you and be creative and unique in it. So thanks, Sarah. Yeah. We're excited about all of it. I know many of you have always been faithful to support campers and send campers to camp in the summer. And so we are just asking that no matter what we do, whether it be in the city day camps or if it's overnight out at Elbow Camp this year, we still need your support, and we still want to provide a camp experience for the kids. And so we're asking that if you would consider still sponsoring a child for, in the past, it's always been $75 to send a kid to camp. If you would consider and prayerfully consider doing that, we would so appreciate it, because we still are running programs and wanting to minister to people. And I know that you want to be a part of that in some way. So God, please provide what we need. We trust you. We know that you have all the resource that is necessary to do what you're calling us to. So, Jesus, come. Be with us as we hear this story from Rachelle Boschman, and may you enjoy it.
Walking, and I always listen to worship music and just kind of get into that place of worship and thinking, okay, so it's the same story, but what am I going to talk about this time?
Yeah.
So once I'm done my walk, I'll grab my computer and I'll start looking through my story and revisiting those spots, and it always comes back to me, and sometimes often becomes very emotionally mine again. But I always find the rawest emotions for me just recalling God's goodness and the miracle that he restored things in my life. So it's not the raw emotion to the pain of what happened, but to the glory of what happened.
Wow. That's so good.
So I feel like, okay, this will be easy. I'll just say this story the way it was, but it never is that easy. Yeah. So it usually ends up a number of hours of me just feeling like I need to put new pieces into it that I maybe never shared before, taking old things out that just don't seem to have a place in it anymore. So with that being said, I really pray that everyone that's listening will find something from this that you can really take home and that impacts you, because I have spent time listening to God and what he, I feel like, has intended for me to really focus on this time.
So good.
And I also kind of add, I pray that you won't be embarrassed by the emotion, because every time I tell this, I'm always amazed at where the emotion comes out.
Yes.
And I also feel like that's what happens when you're humbled and laid bare by something. But I don't want people to be embarrassed by it, but to, be able to feel that emotion themselves.
Amen.
So as I was kind of thinking about that and preparing for it, a verse came to mind from Psalm 56, and he says, "You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. God, you did everything you promised, and I'm thanking you with all my heart. You pulled me from the brink of death, my feet from the edge of doom, and now I stroll at leisure with God in the sunlit fields of life." So I always feel like all the tears that I've shed then and now, that God's collected those. And so they'll be used for his glory. And so I always think about a promise that I made to God. During the hardest days of my life, I told God that if he would just redeem this, that I would always use it for his glory. And he kept his promise, so I definitely feel like by sharing this and reliving it, that I'm just keeping a promise that I made to him, that I would do that.
That's so beautiful.
So my story begins. If I had chosen to write it myself, it never would have gone this way, but it has become beautiful to me. To say my world came crashing down one late fall evening seems an understatement. My world plummeted rock bottom when my husband of 10 years, whom I had trusted and loved, announced that he was in love with another woman and he was leaving. My safe and predictable world fell apart. It was in the wake of years of infertility and in the new hope we had of an impending adoption, but nonetheless, it meant that it was all over. And for me, it really meant that there was no need to go on. Infertility, I thought, was painful, but I was learning the deep, gut-wrenching pain of betrayal. People would tell me that Jesus understood my pain. I didn't believe them. But then he held my broken heart and slowly and gently reminded me that he had suffered alone on the cross and that he had looked into the eyes of his close and treasured friend, and he knew that he would betray him. In the coming hours and days, I learned what it meant to weep so hard that tears soaked my hair as I lay on the floor, pleading with God to just restore my marriage. In these darkest days, immediately following his announcement when I couldn't move forward on my own, it was others who pulled me out of deep depression, encouraged me to rely on God, and they brought me hope for newness, new dreams, and a new life. And I needed others to believe for me when I couldn't feel or see past the numbness and the void. So when I've told my story before, I just told my story, but I really wanted to focus on the impact of community in bringing people out of, trauma and out of really terrible situations, because it was really through community that I was able to walk through to the other side. So I feel like there was kind of three distinct groups. So there was my family and my friends, and then there was just the larger Christian community that helped me walk through. In the first few weeks when my emotions were raw and I had trouble even sustaining my own basic needs, it was my parents who kept me going. The most basic human need, they say, is touch and connection, and that's all that comforted me. My mom would lie with me at night, holding me while I wept and praying over me in order to bring me rest. My dad would crawl on the couch with me during the day and just hold me tight and make me feel secure. He didn't tell me things that I didn't want to hear, like it will be all right. Instead, he would just hold me tight, strong, and safe. I even had to move in with them for a while as I was having severe panic attacks where I would have seizures at the end of them. I lost my appetite and pound after pound until I was skin and bones. I have never prayed so much, cried so much, or felt so defeated. It is an unspeakable grief that I wish no one to bear. And I remember thinking how a broken heart actually felt like it was breaking, and the ache in my chest was so deep. My parents lovingly fed me and stayed by my side, and without them and their life-giving support, I'm not sure how I would have gotten through those days. They listened and allowed me to rage at God, plead with God, and then just walk with God. I still wanted my old marriage back, and I prayed without ceasing for it. I would wake up many times at night, get on my knees and pray for the blinders of sin to fall from his eyes and that our marriage would be restored. I took out every imaginable book and bought it on the subject and read and learned from the wisdom of others before me, and I slowly began to heal. My friends came by my side in sacrificial love, and that was in the form of just listening endlessly to me talking and grieving and bearing my heart to them. Their sacrifice of time to just sit and listen was a wonderful blessing. My closest friend drove from out of town away from her young family for the weekend, and she just sat with me and listened.
Wow.
Never underestimate the blessing of listening that you give to the morning. It was balm to my broken heart. No words could fix or heal my heart. Grieving out loud to another person who cared about me was a huge starting point in my journey of healing. When the rawness of the wound was closing, then anger set in. I'm thankful that I had sought out a wise Christian counselor, as she had helped direct me through this very tumultuous time. And anger is a good sign.
Yeah.
And she told me that, and it was good to hear someone tell you that you should be angry, because it was that new point of realizing that I had been wronged, that it
Yes.
wasn't okay, and I wasn't just begging for it to be the way it was.
Thank you for saying that. That's important.
Yeah. And then she said, guard your heart in the anger. And I think that her advice literally saved me from making really huge mistakes, because the level of anger still astounds me that I was feeling. I would ask God to help me forgive. Every hour I'd have to ask, every day, and slowly God did use my obedience to forgive and start to let go of the anger. But it was definitely obedience to forgiveness, not an emotion to forgiveness. I didn't want to forgive. I knew I should forgive.
So you started by saying, I just choose to forgive?
Correct.
And
Yeah.
then the feeling came later?
And then the feeling came, and I would say it would be something that would like come and go. But yes, it was a choice, and then the feeling followed. Yeah.
That's great teaching.
Yeah. And I reflect back on forgiveness as a child when I think about it, because, you know, you do something to your sibling and be like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And it was very easy, and nothing had ever happened to me in my life that saying I'm sorry or I forgive you had been challenging to me. And so, you know, I had to learn to have diligence and effort in the process of forgiveness. I experienced feelings like that I wanted to murder him, which is, you know, so astounding that you think that you could go there, but that was there. I'd fathom about ways that I could die myself without actually committing suicide. Like the hurt and the anger was just so raw that it had to definitely be a choice.
Yeah.
A choice.
Extreme. And still God welcomed you
Yes.
into his presence.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. God sustained me through it. And I wrote, I can say that in these greatest times of agony, I have never felt the presence of God so much. And I know it's because he loves the weak, because when we are weak, we give him that ability to be strong for us. And so I've never felt the strength of God so much as when I was that weak. And I often think, oh man, I was just so close to God. I could so feel his strength. I remember the feeling of angel wings protecting me, because I was so scared to be in my house alone. But I knew that his presence was there. And then I think in the same breath, but I never want to go back there.
It's true.
Right?
It's true.
So it's like that God's presence was so sweet, and yet I don't want to have to need him that much ever again. It's a really weird
It is.
place to be, but I really feel that it comes down to that. When we are weak, he is strong.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
That is most of the stories. And what
Yeah.
I find amazing when people are that weak and that broken in that state is it kind of settles an issue of belief and trust in God
Yes.
that is unchangeable.
Yes,
You'll never question again.
I agree completely. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Thank you.
And I also really this time felt like I wanted to add that it doesn't just all become rainbows and lollipops. So this was one thing that was really on my heart. Is that once you experience that level of betrayal by the person that you trusted the most in your life, it's a really huge scar that gets torn on you. And I really felt like I'd always left that out, and that people probably assumed that life is just like that, but I really felt like I should focus on the fact that I have to go to the Lord, I have to have him remind me that he is faithful, that he has healed me, and I claim that healing, and that I choose to live in freedom from that. But it's a conscious choice to choose the freedom and to live in that freedom, but that Satan wants to pull us back there because that's there, and we really have to intentfully claim the freedom that God has healed us and that he has restored us and that he is faithful. And so I really hope that impacts somebody, because that's not something I've talked about before, but I really felt like somebody needed to hear that.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to ask you the question of what a trust wound does to you, because there's kind of a temptation that opens up for the enemy to make you question
Yes.
whether you can trust, especially people,
Yes.
when you've been betrayed by people. And so that process that you're describing of just believing and going back to the truth of the faithfulness is critical.
Yeah. My sister-in-law also gave me solid but difficult advice during this time. She told me to walk through the fire and not around it. So for me, this meant continuing to pray for the reconciliation of my marriage, being kind when I only wanted to sling accusations and be defensive, and just waiting to really hear God's direction instead of just walking away from the relationship. And I think this is where amazing growth and maturity came from. I want to pause and reflect on one really vivid, particular moment. My now ex-husband was coming to get things out of the house, his personal belongings. Act like Jesus, my sister-in-law told me. Do not rebuttal his remarks in defense. Just listen like Jesus did to his accusers. And this is not my nature at all. I like to talk and I like to defend myself. But he came, and I remember sitting at the dining room table, and he just started airing all of his grievances to me. He talked on and on about how I emasculated him, how I, it went on and on. I just had to listen to my character being ripped down. And I just sat there. He began to weep. I think he was kind of tormented by those choices, I think, and that I wasn't saying anything didn't cause him to have any jumping point off to have anger with. But I want to note that he never did say sorry. And I feel like a lot of people wait for the sorry that never comes. And I do think it makes forgiveness really difficult when there's not a I'm sorry moment. But I think that's where we really have to decide that forgiveness isn't about them, right? That it's about us. Because I felt like he owed me an I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But it never happened. So, but beyond that, from listening, he said one thing that became really powerful in the future. And he said to me that I was too strong, and that strength just made him feel terrible because I didn't need him enough. And it was ironic because I felt anything but strong in those moments, emotionally, physically. But on top of that, I didn't even feel spiritually strong because I was actually very mad at God that he wasn't bringing it all back together after the hours I'd spent praying and other people praying in my, on my behalf. And I thought, like, okay, like, I'm trusting you. I just had this person barrage me and I listened to that and still nothing.
Yeah.
And so I'm thankful that God lets us be angry with him.
Yeah.
And that I think it's important to bare your heart to God, whether that's in thankfulness for him, like he knows when we're ticked at him. So I would just tell him, like, I am ticked at you right now and that you're not working this out.
Yeah. Honesty. Even with God.
Yeah. Yeah.
So good.
So that moment, fast forward a few months later, and I was at a big kind of citywide prayer meeting. And I went up to the altar to be prayed for, and I did that often. And I was never an altar call kind of person. Like, you wouldn't find me going up to the front for prayer, but I was just so wanting God to do something that I just humbled myself, and I went up for prayer. So this particular time I went up for prayer, and the man was praying for me, and he kind of stopped praying and he just looked at me for a moment, and then he said, God sees your strength, and he sees it as a beautiful dance for him. He created for you, so dance for him. Wow. So you would think that I would kind of be happy because I was just told my strength ended the marriage, right. And then God said, but it was actually the very opposite. Like, I was livid. I'm like, you gave me this? You gave me this so you could kill my marriage with this. And so I feel like when we're in this emotional state, and I was there with my parents and we got in the vehicle, and you do not want to hear my language because I was so mad. Like, why did we come here so that I could hear this? Like, this is ridiculous. Like, it threw me over the edge, angry with God that it would work that way. But again, it became really an important thing for the future for me. And back to the walking through the fire. It hurts. It would have been much easier to just let go. Waiting and wanting and praying, it hurt. And the healing was harder. In the immediate, I feel like the healing in the end was better because I was obedient to walking through the fire, being refined by that fire, but it was painful to be in that place. But I know it was the wisest choice that I made in the moment so that I can look back and have freedom in that. Then the change came. So I was on vacation, I was on a beach, I was reading my Bible, and I just heard deep in my heart, let him go and move on. I have new things for you. And I felt immediate release.
Really?
Yes, like it was like I'd been wanting to let it go, but I was just walking through that fire for God in obedience. And so when God gave me that, I felt complete release. Not that I felt freedom in it. I was still fearful for the future. I got married when I was 19. I didn't know what dating meant or anything, so it was fearful, but it was freeing to know that I had been given the go-ahead to go on and that there were new things for me. So that was huge. And again, because I'd walked through the fire, I could look back with no regrets. I didn't have disappointments in my choice to get a divorce because it was God directed. It wasn't self-motivated by my anger or by my impatience. God had brought me to that place. Yes. And so then the other thing that I really wanted to add in at this point is the community of God can also hurt us, and that's through judgment.
Yes.
And so, again, it just felt like I needed to talk about this So we need to walk close to God, because people are always going to judge us based on what they know or what their particular truth is. So we have to know what God's heart is for us. And I'm happy to tell you that there were very few people in the midst of my journey that were judgmental about my choice to get a divorce, but there were some that told me that, it was my God-given duty to wait until he wanted to come back. Maybe that would be never, and I would be single. And, it's difficult to hear those things. So I think people just need to reserve their judgment, because God had already given me the go-ahead. Right. And so because I was walking closely with God, I knew that, so I could walk forward in freedom. But I just wanted to encourage people to hold their judgment and just love. Like Jesus just loved. He didn't just love the most beautiful in society, right? He loved the hurt. He loved the brokenhearted. He healed. So we should just love people and let them heal, allow them to heal.
That's so good, Rachelle. So good. Thanks, ladies, for joining us for that story from Rachelle. It is incredible how she walked through the fire. As her sister-in-law told her, you need to go through the fire. Don't try to go around it. God will provide what you need to go through it. And we all have experienced that, where we really don't want to walk through fire. It's burns. So we do everything we can to avoid it, and yet God calls us, just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right? They were in the fire and they didn't even smell like smoke when they came out. So Rachelle is one of those people. She didn't smell like smoke. She doesn't smell like smoke, as she revealed the goodness of God. So another cool thing that we just want to leave you with before we say goodbye is that we have a new program starting, and Sarah's going to tell us about that.
Yeah, so this time of COVID has been really hard just on myself, on a lot of young adults, especially teens, just getting to feel like they haven't been able to do normal life and have missed out on a lot of things that life presents to us, even with school and all those opportunities. So this summer, we're actually starting a program called Rooted, which is a discipleship program for our teenagers from 14 to 18, C23 and church youth, both coming and just learning about these things, wrestling through some hard questions of what has God called us to? What is the Bible? What is it? How do we study this? How do we study His Word? How do we do this together? How do we disciple ourselves well? And just asking these big questions and just giving us this opportunity to just struggle through it together and do some fun activities. So we're going to do some fun events and have fun together and just build that community back again, which we're really excited about, to reconnect with these youth. We have lots of great volunteers that have come and said yes to this, and we're excited to have everybody come and be a part of this again. So we're just really happy and excited that God's given us this opportunity to reconnect with some of our youth again. So we're really excited. So if you're praying, please pray for that as well.
Thank you for praying. We bless you in Jesus' name. Have a great month. See you in July.
When I'm drowning, oceans raging all around me, through the thunder and the waves, you're constant. You're my lifeline in the storm. See the waters rushing through this broken vessel. You're the calm within the current, hope rising through the storm. You'll never when I'm failing, you're holding on to me, and I'm holding on to you. Found me here again, in the place we met, where hopelessness meets grace. Silence all the noise, every whispered lie puts a rest by perfect peace. And even in my doubt, I will not forget, you are faithful still to me. I won't take a single step till I hear your voice. I surrender, and when my eyes cannot see, it's your voice that's leading me out of darkness and into light. It's your love that's breaking through the night. I won't move until you speak. I won't move until you speak. Here I'll wait for you in the silence now. I'm holding on to your truth. I won't take a single step until I hear your voice. I surrender, and when my eyes cannot see, it's your voice that's leading me out of darkness and into light. It's your love that's breaking through the night. I won't move until you speak. I won't move until you speak. Oh, I won't move until you speak. I won't move until you speak. You break the walls apart. You heal the wounded heart. I won't move until you speak. You calm the raging sea. You crush the enemy. I won't move until you speak. And you break the walls apart. And you heal the